The Mirror's Curse. Jennycurl sat by her window every morning, her eyes fixed on the river that wound behind her small cottage. The world around her was vibrant with life, the birds singing in the trees, the flowers blooming in full color. But none of that mattered to Jennycurl. She couldn't see the beauty of the world because she believed none existed in her. Every morning was the same, staring at the reflection and hating what she saw. Her nose was too wide, her skin too dull, and her hair was wild, a mess of curls that no amount of effort could tame. She had spent years avoiding mirrors, convinced they were her worst enemy. Every time she caught a glimpse of herself in the glass, it only confirmed what she already knew. She was ugly. People didn't say it out loud, but she could see it in their eyes. The looks of pity, the way they glanced past her as if she didn't exist. No matter how she wished for it, she could never be beautiful like other girls in town, with their graceful figures and glowing skin. Every evening, Jennycurl watched the river, thinking of stories her grandmother had told her about the water spirit that lived within depths. This spirit, if they wished, could grant anyone a single wish. Jennycurl didn't truly believe in those old legends, but desperation had a way of making the impossible seem worth hoping for. One evening, when her self-loathing had reached its peak, she whispered into the night, "If there is a spirit in that river, please make me beautiful, please." That night, she dreamed of the water. She dreamed of mist rising from the river and a voice, soft, melodic, but with an edge of something ancient, calling her name. She woke in the early hours before dawn, feeling a strange sense of peace, as if her plea had been heard. But as she rose and walked to the mirror, she expected nothing had changed. She looked into it, prepared for the same disappointment, but the face staring back at her wasn't hers at all. It was someone else's, someone beautiful. Jennycurl gasped, her hands trembling as she touched her face. The reflection in the mirror was completely unfamiliar. Her dull, uneven skin had transformed into smooth, glowing perfection. The wide nose she had always despised was now delicate, her lips full and alluring. Her wild curls had softened into waves of silken hair that cascaded over her shoulders in perfect harmony. She took a step back, afraid to believe what she was saying. Could this truly be her? Had the water spirit answered her desperate plea? She touched her face again, half expecting the reflection to shift back into the familiar ugliness she had known her whole life, but it didn't. Her fingers traced the sharp lines of her jaw, the smooth curve of her cheekbones. For the first time in her life, Jennycurl didn't want to look away from the mirror. With newfound confidence, she dressed in the clothes that had already felt so plain on her before. Now they seemed to highlight every perfect feature. When she stepped out in the sunlight, the townspeople's reaction were immediate. People who had never noticed her before stopped in their tracks. Eyes followed her wherever she went, and whispers of admiration trailed through the streets. Jennycurl smiled to herself, relishing the attention she had never received. Men who had never spared her a second glance now tripped over themselves to speak to her. They complimented her beauty, their voices dripping with awe, and Jennycurl soaked it all in. For the first time in her life, she felt powerful, wanted. She has always thought beauty would feel like freedom, and now that she had it, she believed she had everything she had ever wanted. But as the sun began to set that evening, something strange happened. As she passed by a shop window, her reflection blurred, her skin lost its glow, and her perfection features began to soften back into the ones she had always known. Panic surged through her as she ran back home, desperate to reach the safety of her mirror. By the time she had arrived, her transformation had fully reversed. The beautiful face that had enchanted the townspeople was gone. She was back to her old self, plain, awkward, ugly. The disappointment was crushing. Jennycurl couldn't believe what had happened. Just hours ago, she had been the most beautiful woman in the village. Now, as she stared at herself in the mirror, she felt the familiar pang of disgust. The beauty was gone, and in its place was the girl she had spent her entire life despising. What had gone wrong? Why had the magic only lasted for a day? She spent the night tossing and turning, her mind racing. Had the water spirit tricked her, or had she done something to break the spell? As the first rays of dawn began to filter through her window, she hesitated before looking in the mirror again, half afraid that she would see her old, plain self. But when she finally walked up the courage to glance at her reflection, she saw the same stunning face from the day before. Her beauty had returned. Relief flooded her, and she hurried out into the village once more, eager to reclaim the attention and admiration she had reveled in the previous day. Once again, the townspeople were captivated by her appearance, and she found herself at the center of everyone's attention. As the day wore on and the sun began to set, Jennycurl's reflection started to blur again. Her beauty once more slipped away as darkness approached. The next morning, the transformation happened again. She awoke beautiful, but by nightfall, the spell would break, but her true form would return. Day after day, the cycle repeated itself. Beauty in the morning, ugliness in the evening. Each day she enjoyed the thrill of being admired, but each night she dreaded the inevitable return of the face she loathed. As days passed, Jennycurl began to realize that her beauty was like the sunlight, temporary, fleeting, something that would always disappear with the coming night. She tried to make most of it while it lasted, throwing herself in the attention and admiration she received from the villagers. She loved the way people looked at her when she was beautiful. It made her feel like she was finally worth something. But no matter how hard she tried to hold on to it, the beauty always slipped through her fingers as the sun dipped below the horizon. Jennycurl soon learned to manipulate the attention she received during the day. Men flocked to her in droves, desperate for her approval, showering her with gifts and compliments. They would bring her flowers, jewels, and even promises of riches beyond her imagination, hoping to win her favor. It wasn't long before the wealthy merchants and noblemen from neighboring towns heard of her beauty and traveled far to meet her. At first, Jennycurl reveled in the attention. She accepted her gift with a smile, basking in the admiration. But as time passed, something within her began to change. She no longer saw these men as individuals, as tools to boost her self-worth. She started to reject their advances with cruelty, dismissing them with a wave of her hand, laughing at the desperate attempts to woo her. It wasn't enough for her to be beautiful. She needed to be powerful too. She loved the feeling of control, of knowing that these men were at her mercy. She used her beauty to manipulate them without a second thought. One by one, she turned away every suitor who came to her door, mocking their professions of love. The more men she rejected, the more proud and arrogant she became. She no longer cared about finding someone who loved her for who she was. Now, it was about the thrill of having someone they all desired but could never truly have. Her heart, once filled with yearning for acceptance, had turned cold and hard. Yet, every evening when the sun began to set, her confidence would wane. As her beauty faded and her true face returned, Jennycurl would lock herself inside her house, unable to bear the thought of anyone seeing her as she really was. She began to despise the night, hating the darkness for stealing away the power she had come to rely on. But deep down, Jennycurl knew that her daytime beauty was nothing more than an illusion. No matter how many men she controlled, no matter how many gifts she received, the truth was inescapable. She wasn't the beautiful woman they all adored. She was the plain, ordinary girl who had cried out to the water spirit in desperation. And each day, the weight of that realization grew heavier on her heart. The day turned into weeks, and Jennycurl's life settled into a pattern of fleeting beauty and bitter nights. She lived for the sunlight, for the moments when her reflection in the mirror was perfect. Each morning, she would watch the dawn with bated breath, waiting for the first rays of light to restore her beauty. And each evening, as the sun disappeared, her heart would sink as her ugliness returned. One afternoon, while strolling through the market, she encountered a stranger she had never seen before. He was an old man, hunched over, with deep wrinkles etched into his face, his eyes cloudy with age. Unlike everyone else in the village, he didn't seem captivated by Jennycurl's beauty. In fact, he barely looked at her at all as she passed by. This irritated her. She was used to people staring, to being the center of attention. "Do you not see me?" she snapped, stopping in front of him. The old man paused, his gaze slowly lifting to meet hers. His eyes, though faded with time, held a depth of wisdom that unsettled Jennycurl. He said nothing but a moment, simply studying her face with a look of quiet understanding that made her uncomfortable. Finally, he spoke, his voice raspy but calm. "I see you, child," he said softly, "but I see more that lies on the surface." Jennycurl's annoyance grew. "Do you not find me beautiful?" The old man shook his head, a faint smile touching his lips. "Beauty is a fragile thing, fleeting like the wind. It is not what you think it is." Her eyes narrowed. "What would you know about beauty, old man? Look at you, with your wrinkled face and weak eyes. You could never understand what it's like to be desired, to be adored." He sighed, his gaze never wavering. "I understand more than you realize, but I will tell you this, child. The beauty you rely on will not last forever. And when it is gone, you will be left with nothing but the truth of who you are inside. Be careful, for vanity is a dangerous thing. It can lead you to places darker than you can imagine." Jennycurl scoffed, dismissing his words with a wave of her hand. "I don't need advice from the likes of you. My beauty is my power. I will never let it slip away." As she turned to walk away, the old man's final words followed her, a whisper in the wind. "Beware, child. The promise of vanity always paid in sorrow." The words of the old man gnawed at Jennycurl as she returned home. She couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled in her chest, but she pushed it aside, unwilling to let anything dampen the glory of her daytime beauty. After all, what did an old man, wrinkled man know about the life she was living now? The next day, she strolled through the village once again. The familiar faces of her admirers greeted her with smiles and waves. Among them, she noticed a man she had not seen in quite some time. Joran, the village blacksmith. He had once been a kind friend to Jennycurl long before her transformation, but she had pushed him away as her beauty blossomed and her pride grew. Joran approached her cautiously, his eyes filled with an emotion she hadn't seen in any of her other suitors. It wasn't admiration or lust, it was concern. "Jennycurl," he began, his voice deep and steady. "It's been a while. You have changed." She smiled smugly, brushing a strand of her hair behind her ear. "Yes, I have. Do you like what you see?" Joran frowned, his brow furrowing as he searched her face. "It's not your appearance that's different. You are not the same person I used to know." Her smile faltered. "Of course I am different and beautiful now." "That's not what I mean," Joran replied, his tone growing more insistent. "There is something cold about you, something distant. I miss the girl who was kind, who cared about the people around her." Jennycurl's eyes narrowed, her pride bristling at his words. "You're just jealous, like all others. You can't handle the fact that I'm better than I used to be." Joran shook his head, a look of sadness crossing his face. "No, Jennycurl, I'm not jealous. I'm worried. You are losing yourself in the obsession with beauty. You are pushing people away." She scoffed, turning back on him. I don't need anyone. Not you, not anyone. My beauty is all I need. As she walked away, Jaren called after her, his voice heavy with regret. One day, you will realize that beauty isn't everything, and when that day comes, I hope you find your way back to the person you once were. Jennycurl didn't look back. She didn't care about Jaren's thoughts. All that mattered was the admiration she received from townspeople. She had beauty, she had power. She wasn't about to let anyone take that away from her. As weeks passed by, Jennycurl's arrogance grew. She no longer cared about the people she hurt or the hearts she broke. She rejected suitors without a second thought. Her words sharp and cruel. Men who had once adored her now left her doorstep with broken hearts, but Jennycurl only laughed at the misery. To her, they were nothing more than pawns in her game of vanity. But the more she indulged in her beauty, the more she noticed a strange shift. Each morning, it took longer for the transformation to happen. Where once her beauty had appeared with the first light of dawn, now it lingered until mid-morning, as if the magic was slowing, and each night her ugliness returned more quickly, creeping over her features before the sun had fully set. At first, Jennycurl dismissed it as a fluke, a minor annoyance, but as the day wore on, the pattern became clear. The water spirit's gifting was fading. One night, as she stared at the reflection in the mirror, her heart filled with dread. Her beauty had vanished even earlier that evening, leaving her with a face she despised. Panic clawed at her heart, at her chest, as she realized the truth. The magic was unraveling. The beauty she had come to rely on, the beauty that had given her so much power, was slipping through her fingers. Desperate, Jennycurl rushed to the river, the moon casting a pale glow over the water. She fell to her knees at the riverbank, her voice shaking with fear. Water spirit, please, don't take this from me. I need my beauty. I can't live without it. For a long moment, there was only silence, the sound of the river's gentle flow filling the night. But then, from the mist that rose from the water, the familiar voice of the water spirit echoed in the darkness. You were given a gift, Jennycurl, the spirit said, its voice cold and distant. But you have used it poorly. Your beauty was meant to teach you a lesson, to show you the value of what lies beneath the surface. Instead, you allowed it to corrupt you. Jennycurl's eye widened, her heart pounding in her chest. No, I haven't done anything wrong. I have only used what you gave me. The water spirit voice grew harsher. You have let vanity consume you. You have hurt others with your pride, and for that, you must face the consequences. Before Jennycurl could respond, the mist began to fade, and the river grew still once more. She was left alone in the cold night,